Evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Namaste experience on this beautiful Friday morning. It is so good to see all of you. Yesterday, I was with Gina and we were just being silly, and she said something to me that was rather silly, but which at the same time I felt had great meaning, and I knew there was a great teaching. She looked at me and she said, "A fish can't ride a bicycle. Stop trying to make a fish ride a bicycle." Okay. And I thought about it. Well, what does that mean exactly? I mean, obviously a fish can't ride a bicycle. And okay, but she was speaking to me. So what is it that I or we are trying to do that cannot be done, that cannot be accomplished? And why do we spend so much time trying to do that? Trying to be something that we are not? It's a good question, isn't it? Well, I wrote a parable to go deeper into that. But before I do, actually, there was something that I wanted to read. Once again, I always have a book here right beneath my computer, and maybe before we hear the parable, we can listen deeply to this. I am leading you into an experience of grace that requires no effort. Only the desire to see requires no effort. Only the desire to see. You need do nothing to receive this gift of sight, but it must be the only thing you want. That gift of sight must be the only thing you want. If you want more than this, you will receive less. And if you desire less of this world, you will receive all. When your desire is unified, you'll finally be able to receive that which has always been offered. The gift of seeing what has always been true. This is grace, and it is everywhere at once. This grace requires no effort, only the desire to see. Effort or trying is definitely something that the ego is very proficient at. I'm going to try to do something. I'm going to give all of my effort to accomplish something, like a fish riding a bicycle. What we don't realize until we do, which I think we are now, realizing that everything that egoic split mind has been chasing is like a carrot on a stick. You're never going to get there. It moves as you move. The target is always moving until we stop. And I've used this analogy before, but it's like a dog that is tied to a post. And this dog has a sufficient amount of rope so that it can run in a big circle around that post. And because that dog is running very fast, it believes in its mind that it must be going somewhere very important. Look at me run. I'm running really fast. I'm going somewhere. I don't know where that place is, but I'm going somewhere. And yet the master, the dog's master, sits to the side and watches this poor dog running in circles, of course seeing exactly what is happening, that it's not really going anywhere. So, what must that dog do before it really can go somewhere, before it can be released? What must it do? Two things. What's the first? Stop running. It has to stop running in circles. The dog's master is standing right there, willing, perfectly happy to assist, but can't do anything until that dog stops running. How many of us are running in a circle? Not going anywhere. But we think we are because we're running so fast. The other thing about that is that a dog cannot untie. It's the knot that binds it to that post. It has to stop and then surrender to the one that can untie. To that master that is waiting patiently for us to stop so that we can be untied. And now that it has stopped, now that that knot has been untied, freedom. And the same is true for us. I think part of what we do here every morning, and hopefully throughout the day, is we stop and hold still. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to make this change, where we would come a little bit earlier, stay a little bit later. Just a few moments, just to hold still together. It's like that dog that's no longer running, holding still so the knot of all of our illusions can be untied. So I think this is somewhat descriptive of a fish that no longer tries to ride a bicycle. So this is our parable for the day. Why are you so intent on making a monkey dance and an elephant sing? Mother screamed in a loud voice the moment her disciples were seated in the temple room. They looked from one to the other, wondering what inspired this strange inquiry. To their knowledge, there was nothing anyone had said that led to such questions. "Dearest Mother," one of her senior disciples asked, "why are you asking this? Has something happened that we're unaware of, or perhaps you're aware of the inner regions of our minds that we are not quite privy to? Whatever it is, please tell us more so that we may be able to discern your lesson." Mother smiled and said, "Why do you spend so much time trying to be something you are not, or accomplish something that will never be realized? I look at you and I see only Krishna. I see only Jesus. I see only the Buddha. But you look at one another and see a man who is rich, or a woman who is poor, a Brahmin who is wise, and a peasant who is ignorant. I tell you that you are all ignorant if you see anything other than what is seen by God. Each one of you is blind until you open your eyes and realize that sight has never been denied you, except that which you have denied yourself. My only message is this: stop denying yourself what God has never denied you. Here, let me tell you a story I heard when I was very young that might help you understand. Long ago, in a bustling marketplace filled with merchants and traders, there lived a humble beggar named Ravi. Despite his poverty, Ravi possessed a heart filled with compassion and wisdom. And he spent his days spreading love and kindness to all who crossed his path. One day, as Ravi sat beneath a banyan tree, a wealthy merchant approached him, his face twisted with disdain. "Beggar," the merchant sneered, "why do you waste your time sitting here when you could be out working to improve your station in life?" Ravi looked up at the merchant with a smile, his eyes shining with inner peace. "My dear friend," he replied, I am content to sit here beneath this tree, for I have found true wealth in the love and the compassion that fills my heart." The merchant scoffed at Ravi's words, unable to comprehend how one could find happiness in such meager circumstances. "You are a fool," he declared, "to waste your life in poverty and destitution. True happiness lies in wealth and power, not in the empty words of a beggar." But Ravi remained unfazed by the merchant's insults, knowing that true happiness could not be found in material possessions or worldly acclaim. Instead, he continued to live each day with humility and gratitude, sharing his boundless love that flowed from his heart with all who crossed his path. As the years passed, Ravi's presence became a beacon of light in the marketplace, touching the hearts of all who encountered him. Even the wealthy merchant who had once scorned Ravi's way of life found himself drawn to the beggar's simple wisdom and inner peace. "In the end," Mother said, "it is not wealth or power, not the wealth of the power of the merchant that brought him true happiness, but the love and the compassion he discovered in the presence of a humble beggar sitting beneath the banyan tree." And so, my dear friends, let us heed these words and open our eyes to the truth that lies within us all. For in the eyes of the divine, we are all equal in our capacity to love and be loved. Do you remember that? I'm sure we can all remember some moment, some holy, grace-filled moment when we were fully satisfied with just sitting still and not worrying about money or wealth or power, just letting all of those concerns fall away. In other words, not trying to make a fish ride a bicycle, or a monkey to dance, or an elephant to sing. Sometimes we need to hear it put in a really silly way for us to really hear the message, for us to see or to realize what it is that we're doing, trying to be something other than what we really are. It also reminds me of the story that I've told before about the giraffe that somehow, when it was a tiny, tiny, very small giraffe, got separated from its herd and was taken in by a herd of zebras. Do you remember this story? And it grew up thinking it was a zebra, just a very long-necked zebra. Until finally it saw, when it got older, it saw this herd of giraffes and realized who it really was. This is what's happening to you right now. You're in the presence of a herd of giraffes, and you realize you're not so odd after all. How many of you felt like you were the only long-necked zebra in your home or your village or amongst your friends? Until you found your community, until you found people who had that same longing for the divine, or to simply realize and remember who I am. And then, of course, the key is to see that everywhere, to give it away. Don't hold on to it. What was that beautiful thing that you said, Gina, that Papa G used to say to you, which was, don't hold on to your enlightenment? Was that? Don't hold on to your enlightenment. People stink of enlightenment. Have you ever met someone who stinks of enlightenment? Look at me. And it's amazing how many people, I want to say fall prey. That's not quite what I want, but you know what who are still looking for that, for the smell rather than to know it about themselves. How many times do we hear stories about gurus and supposed masters who do gain a great deal of power and prestige? The illumination of their mind is such that their strong energy, a magnetic force. But without that humility, or without that teacher continuously reflecting it back and saying, it's not about me, it's about thee. Or reminding ourselves that the only true job of a guru is to spell the word. Gee, you are you. You are you. You've always been you. You've always been the perfect you, the highest version of you that you could ever possibly realize. And it's realized right now. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to imagine a fish riding a bicycle or anything strange and silly like that. Just be who you are in the eyes of God, and all will be well. Why? Because all is well. Okay. So, Vicky, I'm going to turn it over to you and hear what silliness you have to share.
Well, good morning, Brother James. Good morning, everybody. Happy Wondrous Friday. And I'm yours. That was a beautiful song you and Gina did. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for opening with that. Maybe we'll close with the chorus of it. But I have to tell you, so, we're talking about basically what we're saying is simplicity. The translation of let it all go. Don't worry about any of it. Let the money go, the body stuff go, all your ideas, just let them go and be like a kid with no design, no idea. It's simplicity. And that's what's happening with this herd of giraffes that we're all together. And we're the here we are, the field workers in the different fields with our little families of giraffes, learning every day how to be simple every day, simpler and simpler. And simple just means you don't have a lot going on. There's not a lot of, oh, I got to do this, I got to go there, I better do that and call that one. There's none of that because simplicity is just here now. It's just now. Only God, only love, only now. But what it made me truly think of, and you brought me into a visitation, a communion with a dear brother. And I don't think you know this brother. This man was named, I called him Big Joe. And years ago, I had a restaurant downtown Boston. I used to sometimes walk through the park. The park, Boston Common, was across the street. And I'd walk through the park and I saw this wonderful, kind of big, jolly guy feeding the birds. And I don't know, I stopped to talk to him. So how the birds doing? And I invited him. Oh, we talked a minute, and he was just like I suppose everyone thought he was a street person, but he had that glow about him, and I could see it. So I said, "Do you want to come for lunch?" So I invited him to the restaurant, and he did. Later, I wasn't going back. Another day, he came. Oh, and I said, thank you for coming. And I'm thinking, he's a pauper, and he's just a person that lives very simply. So I buy him lunch. No, he insists on paying, and I said, well, next time. But now have lunch. So Big Joe started to come to the restaurant every day. And everyone's thinking, how are you letting this guy just hang around? And I said, I don't know. I think he's wonderful. So one day, Big Joe was upstairs. We had 3 floors of seating. He's on the 2nd floor. And before you know it, he's clearing all the tables. He's cleaning the tables and he's taking away the dishes and the trays and everything. Oh, and I said, Joe, thank you, Joe. So thank you. Then he keeps doing that. And then he's just there and he sits down and he is the enlightened one under the Bodhi tree or banyan tree. Anyway, I'm just loving him, and everyone's thinking, this doesn't look good for the restaurant. You should not have a person. I said, I love this guy. And then another day, he just gets up. We had 2 pianos on 2 different floors. We always had music. So Big Joe gets up and he starts playing piano. And I'm telling you, I almost dropped. Joe, you can play piano? Not only could he play piano, he played his own piano. This isn't a guy that studied. This was a guy that was given the gift. He had the gift, and he played almost like a player piano. He just played everything, but everything he played was joyful. Everything. Then another day, I said, "Oh, Joe, I'll pay you to play piano. Will you just play? Oh, you don't have to pay me. I'll play." So he'd play for breakfast, he'd play for lunch, he'd play for dinner. Then another day he comes in and he brings me an armful of things. And in these things are hand crocheted, you know, what your grandmother has on the back of the chair and on the arm covers, little doilies that are hand. I said, "Joe, who did these? Your grandmother?" "No," he said, "I did these." I said, "Joe, you crochet, Joe?" "Oh," he said, "yes." And then he goes on and we get to be friends and he has a family and a wonderful wife and his children are all grown up and he's retired. And he said, "I really want to help you." And I said, "Oh, Joe, you are helping me. Just keep hanging around." And so he ended up probably being my dearest friend. He did end up working for me. He became my whistle crew. He would stay in at night in the restaurant and clean the whole restaurant. It was 5 floors. He would, and he wasn't young, but he was easy does it, easy does it. We go around, wash all the floors, make sure everything was put back, the counters, the floors, the tables. And he did that actually for a few years. And then another time he said, "You know, I have something else I want to give you." I said, "What, Joe?" And he said, "But you're going to have to help me with this." And he gives me a piano for our home. And we had it until the day we moved, actually. And this was Big Joe. Now, he never thought of himself as any guru or saint or wise man, but he was presently himself. I'm telling you, this guy was himself. That was it. Himself, unencumbered. He had no desires. He didn't care what people thought of him, and everyone thought he was a street person. I mean, everyone. It's not that he was dirty. He was comfortable and he was big. So he was this big, comfortable guy, Big Joe. And didn't everyone in the restaurant and customers fall in love with Big Joe? It was like having Jesus full time be in residence at the restaurant. So, Joe, you're going to make me cry. He became my best friend and he gave me such comfort all the time because especially in those days I was a little dizzy busy, like, oh my god, dizzy busy. And Joe, easy does it, would just get on that piano and start playing, calm me right down, clean a table or two, bring me a doily. And that's simplicity. Big Joe was present. He was present to the birds when he was feeding the birds, and after lunch, after playing the piano or doing whatever he did, he'd go back to the park. He'd sit on that bench with all the other street people that were sitting on that bench, and he would just go back to feeding the birds. And Joe gave me a living example, and I hope I'm giving it to you. Here was the gentlest, most beautiful being, a heart of literally of gold, who had nothing on his mind except loving the birds, loving whoever was in front of him, being with everything for no reason, not somebody that was better or worse or good looking or rich. He could care less, wasn't of any interest to him. Everyone was precious to him. And he taught volumes in any one afternoon of just sitting on that park bench. So I'm so glad I had a moment to share Big Joe with you because I don't think you know him. He was before I met you, James. And Big Joe's very alive in my heart, kind of like a big Buddha that's still right there in ordinary simplicity with extraordinary ability to love and be present, but never thought of himself as, oh, particularly loving or particularly talented or particularly anything. Simply himself. Himself without any guilt, without any desires, the way you started. Not a lot of what fills our mind or some desire. Oh, I got to go get this, that, and nothing. no desire, just presence, being present and simply being himself. So there's my example
Hmm.
to our little herd here of kangaroos. Thank you. What are we,
Okay, so
giraffes?
we're
Kangaroos,
kangaroos now.
giraffes.
Whatever works. Thank you, Vicky. And as you were
Thank you, Jim.
speaking and sharing about Big Joe, I was thinking about Chauncey Gardner. Do you remember Chauncey Gardner from Being There? That'd be a good movie to show one of these nights. Someone who was so simple and yet the thing that was so fun about him is he was always talking about the garden, and they always found such wisdom and thought he was this great sage, which he was. And that's who each one of you are as well. You're this great sage. You're all the enlightened master. We don't have to look to anyone else. We just have to look within our own hearts. And then, of course, to see it everywhere, to give it away to everyone. It's that simple. So, Gina, I'm going to invite, this is our last session with Gina because she's going to be leaving on Sunday. Those of you who are here at Namaste Village, you know she's going to be doing a workshop at 1 o'clock tomorrow. But I'm going to invite Gina if you want to come and sing us out.
Oh my goodness, what beautiful messages, beautiful kangaroos and giraffes and zebras. Sweet Vicky and James. I had something else, but here's what came. Everything runs in a circular motion. Life is but a tiny boat upon the sea. Everything is a part of everything anyway. You can have it all if you let yourself be. La-dum-dee-dum, la-dum-dee. La-dum-dee-dum, la-dum-dee. Some of you know that, right? Let's sing it one time and then I'll close with the mantra. Everything runs in a circular motion. Life is but a tiny boat upon the sea. Everything is a part of everything anyway. You can have it all if you let yourself be. La-dum-dee-dum, la-dum-dee. La-dum-dee-dum, la-dum-dee. Beautiful. And then this mantra is kind of my mantra that reminds me. I know Ravi loves it. And it's just focusing on the light and all. And it's Om Bhur Svaha Tat Savitur Vareniyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. Om Bhur Svaha Tat Savitur Vareniyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. Om Bhuvasvaha Tat Savitur Vareniyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. We place our minds on the self-effulgent divine light that is generative, that is worthy of worship, Varenium, for the full illumination and enlightenment of all who are already made of light, the Bhur Bhuvasvaha in all realms. Namaste, thank you.
Oh wow, what a great way to open our session. The session is now open. This is where it begins, because now we get to go out and put this into practice and to live by seeing it everywhere. So have a beautiful Friday, have a beautiful weekend. We'll see you all on Monday. Don't forget that the Unity service happens here at noon Mountain Time, right? Okay. We love you all. Have a beautiful day.
I'll be here if you'd like to turn.
Oh, that's right. And Scott is going to be. Let me stop the recording here first.